My son threw me out the day after his $10 million win. He was too busy celebrating to check whose name was on the ticket.
Welcome to Cheating Story Exposed. If you haven't yet, hit subscribe and turn on the bell so you never miss the next story. Every day we uncover the truth, one secret at a time. My name is Raymond, and I'm 58 years old. I never imagined I'd be sitting here telling you about how my own son tried to steal $10 million from me. But I guess life has a way of showing you who people really are when the stakes are high enough. This all started 6 months ago on a Tuesday afternoon that seemed like any other. I was finishing up a construction job remodeling a kitchen in one of those fancy subdivisions on the north side of town. My back was killing me. My knees weren't what they used to be, and I was looking forward to getting home, cracking open a beer and watching the game. That's when I decided to do something I rarely did. I bought a lottery ticket. Now I'm not a gambler. Never have been. But that day, one of the guys on my crew, Tommy Rodriguez, had just told me about how his brother-in-law won 30 grand on a scratcher. The way he talked about it with such excitement, something in me just thought, why not? I had $5 left in my wallet, and the gas station was right across from the job site. I walked over during my break and stood in line behind a couple of teenagers buying energy drinks. When it was my turn, I asked the clerk for one Mega Millions ticket. He printed it out, handed it to me, and I folded it carefully into my wallet without even looking at the numbers. I remember thinking it was probably a waste of money I could have used for groceries, but I'd already committed. The drawing was that Friday night. I didn't watch it, I never did. Instead, I found out the next morning when I stopped by the gas station for coffee before heading to the job site. There was a sign in the window, "Winning tickets sold here." I felt my heart skip a beat, but I told myself it was probably some other lucky person. Still, my hands shook as I pulled out my wallet and unfolded that ticket. I checked the numbers 3 times, then 4, then 5, every single number matched, 6 numbers all correct. The jackpot was $10 million. I stood there in that parking lot for what felt like forever but was probably only 5 minutes. My mind went completely blank, then started racing, then went blank again. $10 million. I'd never even seen $10,000 in one place, let alone 10 million. I could pay off my mortgage. I could finally stop destroying my body with construction work. I could visit my brother in Montana, something I'd been putting off for years because I couldn't afford the time off or the plane ticket. But my first thought, the very first one after the shock wore off, was my son, Marcus, my only child. I thought about how I could help him, how this could change both our lives. Marcus was 30 years old and living in a condo downtown. He worked in some tech sales job and was always complaining about his commissions, his territory, his manager. We'd been close when he was younger, but something had shifted in the past few years. He'd become distant, only calling when he needed something help moving furniture, borrowing tools, asking for money. I told myself it was just him being busy, building his career, living his life. I made excuses because that's what fathers do. I decided not to tell anyone right away. The ticket instructions said to sign the back immediately, which I did, carefully writing my full name Raymond Charles Foster in black ink. Then I took a photo of both sides with my phone and put it in a folder labeled Important. I wasn't naive enough to think money didn't change people, but I never imagined my own son would be one of them. That weekend, I did my research. I contacted a lawyer, a man named Gerald Hoffman who specialized in lottery winnings and estate planning. He was expensive, but I figured if I was about to get $10 million, I could afford his fee. We met on Monday morning at his office downtown. Gerald was in his 60s, with silver hair and sharp eyes behind wire-rimmed glasses. He congratulated me, then immediately got serious. "Raymond, before you claim this ticket, we need to establish some legal protections. Lottery winners often face harassment, lawsuits, and family disputes. I've seen relationships destroyed over far less money." I nodded, trying to absorb everything he was telling me. We spent 2 hours going through my options. He recommended setting up a trust, claiming the prize through an LLC to maintain some privacy, and most importantly, keeping the win completely confidential until all legal structures were in place. Don't tell anyone, he emphasized. Not friends, not family, not even people you trust completely. Money has a way of revealing character, and you want to be protected before those revelations happen. I agreed to everything. We scheduled the prize claim for the following Friday, which would give him time to set up the legal entities. I left his office feeling anxious but prepared. That evening, Marcus called. It was unusual. He typically texted if he needed something. "Hey, Dad," he said, his voice bright and cheerful in a way I hadn't heard in months. "I was thinking we should grab dinner this weekend. It's been too long." My heart warmed immediately. Maybe I'd been wrong about the distance between us. Maybe he was finally making an effort. "I'd like that, son. Saturday night?" "Perfect. Come to my place around 7. I'll order from that steakhouse you like." Marcus offering to pay for dinner was even more unusual, but I was touched by the gesture. I spent Saturday afternoon cleaning up, put on my good jeans and the button-down shirt he'd given me for Christmas 2 years ago. I stopped and bought a 6-pack of his favorite beer, excited for what felt like a fresh start. When I arrived at his condo, Marcus answered the door with a huge smile. He looked sharp, dressed in expensive clothes I didn't recognize. "Dad, come in, come in." The condo was spotless, not the usual bachelor mess I was used to seeing. There was music playing softly, and I noticed a bottle of expensive champagne chilling in an ice bucket on the coffee table. "Champagne?" I asked, raising an eyebrow. "What's the occasion?" Marcus's smile widened. "Well, that's what I wanted to talk to you about. Sit down, Dad. This is big." We sat on his leather sofa, and he poured 2 glasses. He was practically vibrating with excitement. "Dad, something incredible happened. You know how I sometimes buy lottery tickets when I'm stressed, just for fun, nothing serious." My stomach dropped, but I kept my face neutral. "Yeah. I actually won. $10 million, Dad, 10 million, the room seemed to tilt. I set my champagne glass down carefully, afraid I might drop it. "Marcus, when did this happen?" "Last Friday. I bought the ticket Thursday night at that gas station near your construction site, actually. I was in the area meeting a client. Can you believe it? I checked the numbers Saturday morning and literally couldn't breathe. I haven't told anyone yet except you. I wanted you to be the first to know." My mind was racing. The ticket had been sold on Tuesday during my lunch break. I had the receipt timestamped, the photo, everything. But here was my son claiming he'd bought it Thursday night. Claiming my win as his own, I took a slow breath. "Marcus, are you sure about the date? Tuesday's drawing was Friday, and tickets can only be purchased before that." He waved his hand dismissively. "I might have the day mixed up, but yeah, I definitely bought it before Friday's drawing. Dad, do you understand what this means? I'm set for life. And of course, I'm going to take care of you. You can finally retire from breaking your back doing construction. I'll make sure you're comfortable. This changes everything." The way he said, "I'm set for life." With such emphasis, the casual mention of taking care of me like I was some charity case, something cold settled in my chest. I wanted to believe he was confused about the dates, that this was some bizarre misunderstanding. But the more he talked, the more details he added, the more I realized he was lying. "Do you have the ticket?" I asked quietly. His expression flickered for just a moment, confusion, then something else I couldn't quite read. "Of course, it's in my safe. Why?" "I'd like to see it." "Just to, see a winning ticket. It's not every day your son becomes a millionaire." Sure, but later, let's celebrate first." "This is such amazing news, Dad. I've already talked to a financial advisor, started looking at houses. There's this beautiful place in the hills, huge property. I was thinking you could have the guest house out back. Wouldn't that be nice? Your own space, but we'd be close. The guest house, not even the main house." I felt something crack inside me, but I kept my voice steady. "That sounds nice, son, but I really would like to see the ticket, just for a minute." Marcus's smile tightened. Why are you being weird about this? It's my ticket, Dad. I just wanted to share my good news with you and you're acting like I'm lying or something. I'm not saying that. I'm just, you know what? I can't believe this. I win $10 million and want to take care of my old man and you're making it awkward. Maybe I should have known better than to get my hopes up about you being happy for me. It was classic Marcus turning it around, making me the bad guy. I'd seen him do it 100 times, but never about something this important. I stood up, my legs feeling unsteady. I should go. Yeah, maybe you should. Call me when you're ready to apologize for ruining what should have been a perfect evening. I drove home in a daze, my hands gripping the steering wheel so tight my knuckles were white. When I got to my small house, I went straight to the lockbox in my bedroom closet and pulled out the ticket. There it was, my signature on the back, the photo on my phone showing the date and time stamp. Tuesday afternoon, 1:15 p.m. I didn't sleep that night. I kept trying to make sense of it. Had he somehow seen the ticket? Had I mentioned buying it without remembering? But no, I hadn't told anyone, not a single person. Sunday morning, Marcus called. I let it go to voicemail. He called again an hour later. And again. By Sunday evening, he'd called 7 times and sent a dozen texts ranging from apologetic to angry to manipulative. The last one read, "I can't believe you're being this petty. I'm your son. We should be celebrating together. You're choosing to be alone instead of being part of something amazing." Monday morning, I met with Gerald again. I told him everything. He listened without interrupting, his expression growing more serious by the minute. "Raymond, this is exactly the situation I warned you about. Your son has somehow learned about your win and is attempting to claim it as his own. The good news is you have irrefutable proof, the signed ticket, the timestamp on your purchase, the photo documentation. The bad news is this is going to get ugly. He's my son," I said quietly. "How do I fight my own son?" "By protecting yourself. He's already chosen to fight you. You're just defending what's rightfully yours. We need to claim your prize immediately and prepare for whatever comes next." We moved up the claim date to Wednesday. Gerald arranged for us to meet with the Lottery Commission at their regional office. I took the day off work, telling my foreman I had a medical appointment. The irony wasn't lost on me that I was still keeping this secret while my son was apparently telling people he'd won. The lottery office was nothing like I'd imagined. It was a plain government building with fluorescent lights and beige walls. A woman named Patricia Chen, the regional claims director, met us in a small conference room. She was professional and efficient, congratulating me warmly before getting down to business. "Mr. Foster, I need to verify a few things. You purchased this ticket on Tuesday, March 14th at 1:15 p.m. at Hanson's gas station, correct?" "Yes, ma'am." She checked her computer, then nodded. "That matches our records. The ticket was sold at that location at that exact time. Can you tell me where you've kept the ticket since purchase?" "In my wallet until I got home that night, then in my lockbox in my bedroom closet. I signed it Saturday morning after I confirmed the numbers matched." Patricia examined the ticket under a special light, checking for alterations or forgeries. She took several photos, made copies, and had me sign multiple forms. The whole process took about an hour. "Everything checks out perfectly," she finally said. "Mr. Foster, congratulations. You're the verified winner of $10 million. We'll process your claim, and you should receive your first payment. You opted for the annuity, correct, within 4 weeks. I felt relief wash over me, but it was mixed with a deep sadness. This should have been the happiest moment of my life, but all I could think about was Marcus. As if on cue, my phone buzzed. Another text from him. "Dad, I'm coming over tonight. We need to talk about the ticket situation." I think I know what happened. You must have bought a ticket too, and we're both confused about which one won. I'm sure we can figure this out together. I showed the text to Gerald. He shook his head. "He's already building a narrative. Raymond, I need you to understand something. Your son is not confused. He's attempting fraud. At best, he somehow found out about your win and is trying to manipulate you into sharing it. At worst, he's planning to take legal action claiming the ticket is his." "What should I do?" let him come over. But I'll be there too, with a witness, my paralegal, Vanessa. We're going to record the conversation with your permission. Whatever happens, you need documented proof of his claims and behavior. That evening, I prepared myself. Gerald and Vanessa arrived at 6:30, setting up a small recording device on my dining room table. Vanessa was a young woman in her late 20s with sharp eyes and a professional demeanor. "Mr. Foster, I know this must be incredibly difficult," she said, "but you're doing the right thing by protecting yourself." Marcus arrived at 7 sharp. He stopped cold when he saw Gerald and Vanessa. "What is this, Dad? Who are these people?" "This is my lawyer, Gerald Hoffman, and his assistant, Vanessa. Please sit down. You said we needed to talk about the ticket situation." His face flushed. "I meant privately. This is family business. Mr. Hoffman is here to help clarify things. Please sit." He sat reluctantly, his jaw tight. I noticed his hands were clenched into fists. "Fine." "Dad, I think there's been a misunderstanding. The ticket I bought." "When did you buy it, Marcus?" Gerald asked, his voice neutral. "Thursday night. I already told my dad this." "And where?" "Hanson's gas station near Dad's construction site." "What time?" "I don't know exactly. Around 8 p.m. maybe." Gerald pulled out a document. "Hanson's gas station closes at 7 p.m. on weeknights. They have been for the past 3 years due to staff shortages." "So you couldn't have purchased a ticket there at 8 p.m. Marcus's face went pale. "Then it was earlier, 6:30 maybe. I don't remember exactly. Do you have the receipt?" "No, I threw it away." "And the ticket itself?" "It's at my condo, in my safe. Can you describe it?" It's a lottery ticket. They all look the same." Gerald leaned forward slightly. "Marcus, you told your father you won $10 million. You've contacted a financial advisor. You've been looking at houses. All based on a ticket you haven't shown anyone and can't provide specific details about. Meanwhile, your father has this." He placed my ticket on the table, along with the photos showing the timestamp, my signature, and the verification documents from the Lottery Commission. "This ticket was purchased on Tuesday afternoon at 1:15 p.m. It's been verified by the State Lottery Commission as the winning ticket. Your father claimed his prize this morning. So I'll ask you directly, where did you get your information about a $10 million win?" Silence in the room was deafening. Marcus stared at the documents, his face cycling through emotions, shock, anger, calculation, and finally something that looked like panic. "You claimed it already." His voice was barely above a whisper. "You claimed my ticket." "Marcus, it was never your ticket." He stood up abruptly, knocking his chair backward. "This is insane. Dad, are you seriously doing this? I'm your son, your only kid. We should be splitting this, celebrating together, not whatever this is." "You told me you won," I said quietly. "You didn't say we should split anything. You said you'd take care of me, let me live in your guest house. That's not splitting, Marcus. That's you keeping everything and giving me scraps." "Because I thought it was my ticket." He stopped, realizing what he just admitted. He'd thought it was his ticket, which meant he knew about my win somehow. Gerald stood. "Marcus, I strongly suggest you consult with your own attorney before this conversation goes any further. You're venturing into territory that could have serious legal consequences." "Are you threatening me? Dad, your lawyer is threatening me." "He's protecting me," I said, and I was surprised by how steady my voice sounded. "Marcus, how did you know about the ticket?" He grabbed his jacket. "I can't believe this. My own father is choosing money over his son. You know what? Keep it. Keep all of it. But don't expect me to be part of your life anymore. You've made your choice." He stormed out, slamming the door hard enough to rattle the windows. I sat there, staring at the closed door, feeling like everything I'd built with my son had just shattered. "I'm sorry you had to go through that," Vanessa said softly. "For what it's worth, you handled it perfectly, but it didn't feel perfect. It felt like I'd just lost my son. The next few days were a blur. Marcus's angry texts turned into complete silence. I tried calling him twice, but he didn't answer. I left a voicemail asking him to talk to me, but he never responded. Through mutual acquaintances, I heard he'd told people I'd stolen from him, that I was a terrible father who'd chosen money over family. Then, 2 weeks later, I was served with papers. Marcus was suing me for half the lottery winnings, claiming we'd had a verbal agreement to purchase tickets together, that the win was a joint venture, and that I'd violated our partnership by claiming the prize alone. Gerald had predicted this, but it still felt like a punch to the gut. My son was actually taking me to court. His case is weak, Gerald assured me. He has no evidence of this supposed agreement, no proof he contributed money to purchase your ticket, nothing. But we need to take this seriously. He's hired Lance Morrison. He's an aggressive attorney who specializes in inheritance and lottery disputes. The preliminary hearing was scheduled for 6 weeks out. In the meantime, Gerald worked on our case while I tried to keep my life together. I'd taken a leave of absence from the construction crew. Too many people were starting to ask questions after someone spotted me coming out of a lawyer's office. The story had also leaked somehow. Local news picked it up. Father and son battle over $10 million lottery win. They didn't have all the details, but they had enough. My phone rang constantly with reporters wanting comments. I ignored all of them on Gerald's advice. 3 days before the hearing, something unexpected happened. I got a call from a number I didn't recognize. Mr. Foster, this is Allison Grayson. I'm the store manager at Hanson's gas station. My heart started racing. Yes, I saw the news about your case. I think you should know your son came into the store about 3 weeks ago before all this went public. He was asking very specific questions about our security cameras, whether they captured the register area, how long we keep footage. He said he was doing research for some business presentation about retail security. I thought it was odd, but I answered his questions. He seemed particularly interested in when our cameras get recorded over. I felt cold all over. Did he ask about the lottery tickets? Actually, yes. He asked if we kept records of who purchased tickets and when. I told him the Lottery Commission has all that information, but we don't keep detailed records at the store level beyond what's required for reconciliation. After I saw the news, I realized he wasn't doing any business research. He was gathering information about your ticket. I thanked her profusely and immediately called Gerald. He added Allison to our witness list. The pieces were falling into place. Marcus must have somehow found out I'd bought a ticket. Maybe he'd driven by the gas station and seen my truck. Maybe he'd heard me mention it to someone. He'd investigated, realized it was the winning ticket, and decided to claim it as his own. When that didn't work, he'd tried to build a false partnership claim. The courthouse on the day of the hearing was overwhelming. Marcus arrived with his lawyer, a tall man in an expensive suit who barely acknowledged me. Marcus didn't look at me at all, keeping his eyes straight ahead as we entered the courtroom. The hearing lasted 4 hours. Marcus's lawyer presented their case, a story about how Marcus and I had a tradition of buying lottery tickets together, how we'd always agreed to split any winnings, how I'd betrayed this understanding by claiming the prize alone. When it was Marcus's turn to testify, he looked at the judge with what seemed like genuine emotion. Your Honor, my dad and I have always been close. We did everything together. When he bought that ticket, it was supposed to be for both of us. We talked about what we'd do if we ever won. He's taking advantage of the fact that it was physically in his hand, but morally, ethically, that money belongs to both of us. It was a compelling performance. I'll give him that. Then Gerald called me to the stand. I told the truth, all of it. How I'd bought the ticket on my lunch break alone with my own money. How I'd signed it immediately and stored it safely. How Marcus had called me out of the blue and claimed he'd won. How his story had shifted and changed with each telling. Then Gerald called Allison Grayson. She testified about Marcus's suspicious visit to the gas station, the questions about cameras and records. Finally, Gerald presented the phone records showing Marcus had called me the same day I'd purchased the ticket, but I hadn't answered. He'd called again an hour later, and we'd talked for 8 minutes. Mr. Foster, Gerald asked me, do you remember that phone call? I'd forgotten about it until he'd shown me the records. Yes, he called asking if I could loan him money for his rent. He said he was short this month because of some unexpected expenses. Did you loan him the money? No. I told him I didn't have it to spare. And his response? He asked where I was. I said I was on lunch break from work. He asked where specifically. I thought it was odd, but I told him I was at the gas station across from the job site grabbing coffee. The courtroom was silent. The judge looked from me to Marcus, his expression thoughtful. "Marcus Foster," he said. "Did you know your father had purchased a lottery ticket?" Marcus's lawyer started to object, but the judge held up his hand. "I'd like to hear from your client directly." Marcus was silent for a long moment. Then quietly, "I saw his truck at the gas station. I was driving by on my way to a meeting. I thought maybe he'd bought a ticket. I didn't know he'd won. But you claimed you'd purchased the winning ticket yourself. I was confused. I'd bought tickets that week too from a different store. I mixed them up. Yet you told your father you'd bought your ticket at Hanson's gas station." No answer. The judge leaned back in his chair. "I've heard enough." Mr. Foster's case, Marcus's case, relies entirely on an alleged verbal agreement that has no supporting evidence whatsoever. Meanwhile, Raymond Foster has substantial documentation proving sole purchase and ownership of the ticket in question. There is evidence suggesting Marcus Foster became aware of his father's purchase and attempted to claim the winnings as his own. I'm ruling in favor of Raymond Foster. Case dismissed. The gavel came down. It was over. I should have felt victorious, but I just felt hollow. Marcus left the courtroom without looking at me once. His lawyer tried to talk to him in the hallway, but he pushed past and disappeared through the exit doors. 2 months later, I moved into a modest but comfortable 3-bedroom house in a quiet neighborhood about an hour outside the city. I'd set up the trust Gerald recommended, invested most of the money, and was living off a reasonable amount that allowed me to finally retire from construction but not live extravagantly. I tried calling Marcus a few times, but he'd blocked my number. I sent letters to his condo, but they were returned unopened. Through mutual acquaintances, I heard he'd quit his job and moved to California. Someone said he was telling people I'd stolen from him, that I was a terrible father who'd chosen money over family. Maybe in some ways he was right. Maybe I should have just given him half, avoided all this pain. But every time I thought that, I remembered. Face when he said, "I'm set for life," with such emphasis. I remembered the guest house he'd so generously offered me. I remembered how easily he'd lied, how quickly he'd sued me. The money didn't make me happy. It made my life easier, no more destroying my body with physical labor, no more anxiety about making the mortgage, no more saying no when my brother asked if I could visit. But it didn't fill the hole where my son used to be. About 4 months after the court case, I got a message on Facebook from someone named Derek Chen. He said he was Marcus's former roommate from college and had seen the news. He wanted me to know something. We met for coffee at a diner near my new house. Derek was a serious-looking man about Marcus's age, wearing glasses and a concerned expression. "Mr. Foster, I don't know if this will help you or hurt you, but I felt you deserved to know. When Marcus and I were roommates junior year, he stole money from me, about $2,000 over several months. Small amounts I didn't notice at first, 50 here, 100 there from my wallet or my desk. When I finally figured it out and confronted him, he denied everything, made me feel crazy for even suggesting it. Eventually, I let it go because I couldn't prove it and I didn't want the drama. I felt my stomach turn. Why are you telling me this now? Because when I saw the news, I wasn't surprised. Marcus has always had this thing about money and deserving more. He once told me that people who worked regular jobs were basically choosing to be poor, that he was going to do whatever it took to be wealthy. I thought he meant working hard, being ambitious. But looking back, I think he meant something else entirely. Derek leaned forward. You didn't lose a good person who made one mistake, Mr. Foster. You exposed someone who's been this way for a long time. I'm sorry because he's your son and you love him. But you did the right thing. I sat in that diner for a long time after Derek left, staring at my coffee and thinking about all the signs I'd missed over the years. 6 months after winning, I finally felt like I could breathe again. I'd started volunteering at a veterans center, helping guys transition back to civilian life and teaching basic carpentry skills. It felt good to use my experience, both the good and the bad, to help others. I'd also reconnected with some old buddies from my construction days, guys I'd lost touch with during the years of endless work. One Tuesday afternoon, almost a year to the day after I'd bought that ticket, I got a call from an unknown number. I almost didn't answer, but something made me pick up. "Dad," my heart stopped. "Marcus." "Yeah, it's me." His voice was different, quieter, tired. "Can we talk in person?" We met at a neutral location, a park bench near the lake. When I saw him, I barely recognized him. He'd lost weight, his face looked drawn, and there were dark circles under his eyes. We sat in silence for a long time, watching boats on the water. "I'm not here to ask for money," he finally said. "I know you probably think that's why I'm calling, but it's not. I'm here because my therapist said I needed to face what I did, so that's what I'm doing." I waited. "I knew you bought that ticket. I drove by the gas station after our phone call and saw your truck there. I waited and watched you walk out and put something in your wallet." I didn't know it was a lottery ticket right then, but when I heard there was a winning ticket sold at that exact location, I put it together. And instead of being happy for you, instead of thinking about how this could help you after all those years of breaking your back in construction, all I could think was that it should be mine. He rubbed his face with both hands. "I convinced myself I deserved it more than you, that I was smarter, more ambitious, that I'd do more with the money. I actually believed my own lie about buying a ticket there. I told it so many times in my head that it felt real, and when you wouldn't just give it to me, I got angrier and angrier. How dare you keep something from me that I wanted? Marcus, please let me finish. I need to say this." He took a shaky breath. "After the trial, I fell apart. I'd quit my job thinking I'd be rich. I'd told everyone I was about to be a millionaire. When it all collapsed, I had nothing. I moved to California thinking I could start over, but I just kept making the same mistakes. I borrowed money from a friend and never paid it back. I lied to my girlfriend about my past, and she left when she found out the truth. Every bridge I had, I burned it." He turned to look at me for the first time. "I hit rock bottom about 3 months ago. I was living in my car, Dad. Your son was living in his car because he destroyed every opportunity he'd ever had. Someone from a church outreach found me and got me into a program. They connected me with a therapist who specializes, well, in people like me, people who manipulate and lie and hurt the people who love them. I'm glad you got help," I said carefully. "She diagnosed me with narcissistic personality disorder. I don't know if you know what that is, but basically I've spent my entire life thinking only about myself, using people, and believing I was entitled to whatever I wanted. She said people with my condition rarely get better because they never think they're the problem. Everyone else is always wrong, always against them." He laughed bitterly. "I spent 6 months in therapy before I could even admit that you'd done nothing wrong, that the ticket was yours, that I tried to steal from you, that I sued my own father over money that was never mine. 6 months to accept that simple truth." I felt my throat tight. "Why didn't you call me? When you were in your car, when things got bad, I would have helped you, Marcus. Even after everything, I would have helped you." "I know. That's what makes it worse. You would have dropped everything to help me, and I'd already tried to destroy you." He was fighting back tears now. "Dad, I don't expect you to forgive me. I don't even know if I deserve the chance to apologize. But my therapist said I needed to face what I'd done, acknowledge the harm, and not expect anything in return. So that's what I'm doing. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry for what I did to you." We sat there in silence for a long time. I felt tears running down my face, something I hadn't allowed myself to do since this whole nightmare began. "What happens now?" I finally asked. I don't know, I'm working at a warehouse in San Diego, living in a studio apartment with 2 roommates, going to therapy twice a week, trying to figure out who I am when I'm not lying or manipulating or using people. It's hard. Some days I want to give up, but I'm trying. Do you need anything, money for therapy or... No, he said it firmly. That's not why I'm here. I need to do this on my own. My therapist says accepting money from you right now would just be another form of manipulation, another way of using you. I need to prove to myself that I can survive without taking from other people. I understood, even though every paternal instinct in me wanted to help him to fix things to make his life easier. Can I call you sometimes? He asked. Not often, maybe once a month. My therapist thinks it would be good to try to rebuild slowly if you're willing. Of course you can call me Marcus, you're still my son. I never stopped loving you even when I was angry and hurt and betrayed. That's not how a father's love works. He stood up, and after a moment's hesitation, I stood too. He really hugged me for the first time in years. Thank you, he whispered, for not giving up on me completely. He left after that, getting into a beat-up Toyota that had clearly seen better days. I watched him drive away, not knowing if I'd hear from him again, if this was real chain. Or just another manipulation. But for the first time since this whole nightmare began, I felt something like hope. He did call a month later. It was a short conversation, updates about his job, his therapy, the small apartment he was learning to be grateful for. He asked about me, actually listened to my answers. It felt tentative and fragile, but it felt real. Those monthly calls continued. Slowly, over the course of a year, we rebuilt something. It wasn't the relationship we'd had before. We both knew too much now, had been through too much. But it was something honest, something real. He told me once during one of our calls, I spent so many years thinking happiness was about having more money, more status, more things. I destroyed myself and hurt you chasing this idea of more. Now I'm learning that maybe happiness is actually about being okay with enough, about being grateful for what you have instead of obsessed with what you don't. I'm sitting here now, 2 years after I bought that lottery ticket, thinking about everything that's happened. The money changed my life, there's no denying that. I'm comfortable in ways I never imagined I could be. I've traveled to see my brother in Montana. I've helped fund programs at the Veterans Center. I've created a scholarship for kids from working-class families trying to learn a trade. But the money also cost me dearly. It revealed truths about my son that I might never have known otherwise. It forced me to choose between protecting myself and enabling someone I loved. It taught me that sometimes love means holding boundaries, even when it breaks your heart. Marcus and I have dinner together now, about once every few months. He flies in from San Diego, staying in a hotel he pays for himself with money from his warehouse job. We keep things light mostly, but sometimes we talk about what happened. He's still in therapy. He says he probably will be for life. It's like being an alcoholic, he explained once. I'll always have these tendencies. I'll always have to watch myself, question my motivations, check that I'm not falling back into old patterns. Some days it's exhausting, but it's the only way I can be someone worth being. I'm proud of him for that self-awareness. It doesn't erase what he did, but it shows he's trying to be better. As for me, I've learned that money doesn't buy happiness, but it does buy choices. It buys freedom from certain kinds of stress. It buys the ability to help others, to make a difference, to not live in constant fear of an injury putting me out of work. But it doesn't buy love, doesn't buy trust, doesn't buy back time or repair damaged relationships. If I could go back to that Tuesday afternoon, knowing everything that would happen, would I still buy that ticket? Honestly, I don't know. The money has been a blessing in so many ways. But the price was watching my son turn into someone I didn't recognize, feeling the betrayal of someone I'd raised and loved, sitting in a courtroom while he lied under oath. Maybe the real lesson isn't about the lottery at all. Maybe it's about how crisis reveals character. The money didn't change Marcus, it just exposed who he already was underneath. and it forced me to see clearly, to stop making excuses, to protect myself even when it hurt. I sometimes wonder what would have happened if I'd just given him half. Would he have been satisfied? Would our relationship have survived? Or would it have just delayed the inevitable, allowed him to keep being the person he was without ever facing the consequences? I'll never know the answer to that. All I know is that I made the choice to stand up for myself, to refuse to be a victim, to say no even to my own son. It was the hardest thing I've ever done. But it was also the thing that eventually led to Marcus getting help. If I'd given in, if I'd enabled him, he might still be that person entitled, manipulative, willing to hurt anyone for what he wanted. Now, at least he has a chance to be something else. So when people ask me if I regret winning the lottery, I tell them the truth. I regret the pain it caused. I regret learning my son was capable of what he did. I regret the year of heartbreak and legal battles. But I don't regret protecting myself. I don't regret forcing the truth into the light. And I don't regret that it ultimately led to both of us becoming more honest versions of ourselves. The money sits in accounts and trusts, carefully managed and slowly being put to good use. It's there, stable and secure, no longer the source of conflict it once was. Marcus knows it exists, but he's never asked for any of it since that day in the park. I've offered help a few times when his car broke down, when he needed dental work, but he's always politely declined. I need to know I can take care of myself, he says. Not because I don't appreciate the offer, but because I spent 30 years thinking other people owed me things. I need to break that pattern completely. I respect that, even though it goes against every fatherly instinct I have. Last month, on the 2-year anniversary of buying the ticket, Marcus sent me a card. Inside, he'd written, "Thank you for not giving up on me and thank you for not enabling me. I needed both. I'm finally becoming someone I can be proud of. I hope one day I'll be someone you can be proud of too. I love you, Dad." I keep that card on my refrigerator, next to a photo of us from when he was 8 years old, grinning with a missing front tooth, holding up a fish we'd caught together on a camping trip before life got complicated, before money became more important than people. Looking at those two images side by side, the innocent little boy, and the hard-won words of accountability, I think about how we never really know how our choices will ripple forward. That $5 lottery ticket set off a chain of events that broke my family apart and slowly started putting it back together. In a different form, would I choose differently if I could do it all again? I honestly still don't know. But I do know this: I'm finally at peace with the choices I made. I protected myself. I told the truth. I held my boundaries, and I left the door open for my son to find his way back when he was ready. That's all any of us can really do: make the best choices we can with the information we have, stand firm in our truth, and hope that love finds a way to survive even the hardest tests. The lottery money changed my life, but losing and slowly regaining my son, that transformed it. I still work with my hands, not because I have to anymore, but because I want to. I volunteer at the Veterans Center 3 days a week, teaching carpentry and woodworking to guys who need something solid to hold on to. I've learned that a man's worth isn't measured by his bank account, but by what he does with what he's been given, whether that's $10 million or just another day. Some of the guys at the center know my story. Word gets around. They ask me for advice sometimes about money or family or difficult choices. I tell them what I've learned, that doing the right thing often hurts like hell, that boundaries aren't walls, they're foundations, and that sometimes the greatest act of love is refusing to participate in someone else's destruction of themselves. Marcus called last week. He's been promoted to shift supervisor at the warehouse. It's not glamorous work, but there was pride in his voice when he told me. Real pride, not the fake arrogance he used to carry. He's also started volunteering at a youth center, teaching kids about financial responsibility and the dangers of entitlement. I figure if I can help one kid avoid the mistakes I made, maybe that's worth something, he said. That's worth everything, son. We're planning to meet next month. He's coming back to town for a full weekend, and we're going to drive up to the mountains, maybe do some fishing like we used to when he was young. I'm not expecting miracles or dramatic reconciliations. I'm just looking forward to spending time with my son, the real version of him, not the mask he used to wear. The lottery ticket is framed now, hanging in my study next to my old construction hard hat and a photo of me and Marcus from that camping trip when he was 8. It's a reminder not of the money, but of the moment everything changed. The moment truth became more important than comfort, boundaries became more important than peace, and love had to be tough enough to survive the hardest test. Closing reflection, asterisk, I'm Raymond, and this is my story. If there's anything I've learned from all of this, it's that money reveals character, it doesn't create it. The people who would steal from you were always capable of it. The windfall just gave them an opportunity. But I've also learned that redemption is possible, even when it seems impossible. Change is real, even when it's slow and painful and uncertain. If you're facing a situation where someone you love is betraying you, lying to you, or trying to take what's yours, I know how hard it is. I know the guilt, the second-guessing, the voice that says you should just give in because it's easier than fighting. But sometimes, the kindest thing you can do for someone is refuse to enable their worst self. Sometimes love means saying no. Sometimes protecting yourself is what finally forces the other person to face themselves. I'll be honest, I still don't know how this story ends. Marcus's recovery is ongoing. Our relationship is still healing. There are no guarantees, no promises that everything will be okay, but we're trying. We're both trying. And after everything we've been through, that has to be enough. A man doesn't measure his life by what he's accumulated, but by what he stood for when it mattered most. I stood for truth when lies were easier. I stood for boundaries when giving in would have been simpler. I stood alone when I could have bought company. And now, slowly, I'm learning to stand alongside my son again, not the son I wished he was, but the man he's fighting to become. Thank you for listening to my story. I hope it helps someone out there who's facing their own impossible choice between love and self-protection. You don't have to choose between them. You can love someone and still protect yourself. You can hold boundaries and still leave room for reconciliation. It won't be easy. It might break your heart. But in the end, the truth will always be better than a comfortable lie. Take care of yourselves. Stand firm. And remember you're worth protecting, even from the people you love most.